But I think what we could agree on just this far in is the fact that we know nothing about ERIKA KIRK, and I don't think ERIKA knows anything about ERIKA KIRK. I think she was created.
We were told a story, the story of a grieving widow, the trad wife icon, the woman who found God and found Charlie. But what if every chapter of that story was written by someone else? What if the woman you see on screen isn't a person at all, but a program? Candace Owens just opened a door that ERIKA KIRK tried to weld shut. For years, the narrative was Lombardi, as in Vince Lombardi, the legendary Green Bay Packers coach. Royalty, patriotism, the American dream. But as the receipts surface, a darker name emerges, Lombardo. Charlie called her sports royalty, but the court documents say something else. In Cincinnati, the name Lombardo isn't associated with touchdowns. It's associated with racketeering, illegal gambling, and the Genovese crime family. Is ERIKA the descendant of a coach or the product of a syndicate? The clerical errors in her birth date spanning a decade suggest a childhood where identities were as fluid as the truth. Then, there is the Bible study era. ERIKA claims she locked herself in a room for 8 months to study the Word. Yet, in 2016, she tells a different story, that she didn't know how to read the Bible and needed a friend to account for her. If she wasn't reading the Bible for those 8 months in 2008, where was she? Candace suggests she was training, preparing for a role, the pathways of her brain being rerouted to become exactly what the room needed her to be. A Catholic one day, a Protestant the next, a grieving widow on Monday, a power-hungry CEO by Friday. Charlie Kirk stood between America and a full-scale war. He was the obstacle. And just months after he stood his ground at the White House, he was removed. In his place, a widow who smiles through the morning, a widow who invites Charlie's biggest enemies to take the keys to his kingdom. As Candace puts it, she loved Charlie like LBJ loved JFK, ready to be sworn in before the body was even cold. The mask isn't just slipping, it's dissolving. We are looking at a masterclass in social climbing, built on a foundation of micro-lies and shadowy pedigree. If ERIKA KIRK was indeed created, we have to ask the final, terrifying question: who holds the remote? Before she was the bride of Charlie, ERIKA claimed she was a solitary seeker of the Word. 5 years of singlehood in the heart of Manhattan? Candace Owens isn't just skeptical, she's laughing. ERIKA's years at the Corcoran Group weren't spent in a convent. She was in the high-stakes world of New York luxury real estate, a world where you don't just not date, you network, you climb. Candace suggests ERIKA's dating history is a roster of elite targets: NFL stars, MLB players, the famous at any cost crowd. She didn't want a 9-to-5 husband. She wanted a platform. Charlie Kirk wasn't a soulmate. He was the ultimate get. But to sell that to the conservative base, the social climber had to be created into a saint. When she fumbles her past in interviews, Owens calls it a memory download error. She isn't remembering her life, she's trying to remember her script. But the dating lies are just the appetizer. The main course is the hostile takeover of Turning Point USA. The America First obstacle. According to the timeline, Charlie Kirk was the one man standing between the White House and a full-scale war with Iran. He convinced the president it would crater his legacy. Charlie was the anti-war, America First shield. And just months after he won that internal battle at the White House, he was removed. Look at the keys ERIKA is handing over. Before Charlie's body was even cold, the grieving widow was being sworn in like LBJ on Air Force One. But she isn't continuing Charlie's legacy. She is inverting it. Charlie couldn't stand the warmongers, the Lindsey Grahams and the John Boltons. Yet, ERIKA has invited his ideological enemies to hostilely take over the movement. Candace mocks the new vibe as Shabbat Shalom USA. It's no longer about the American worker or the student on campus. It's about aligning with foreign interests that Charlie explicitly stood against. With her mother Lori's ties to the Lombardo name, a name synonymous with racketeering, the organization is beginning to look less like a nonprofit and more like a gangster's paradise. Why is ERIKA KIRK forgiving Charlie's assassin before the investigation even starts? Why is she smiling through tributes while McCoy, the man who caught the signal, stands in the wings? The Shabbat Shalom shift isn't an accident. It's the goal. If Charlie was the obstacle to a new world order or a neocon war, then ERIKA is the facilitator. She wasn't his partner, she was his replacement. As Candace Owens says, she loved Charlie like LBJ loved JFK. She didn't want his heart, she wanted his power of attorney. According to investigative journalist Elizabeth Lane, what the public is witnessing isn't awkward grief. It's something far more pathological. Lane argues that ERIKA Kirk doesn't just lie, she glitches. Psychopath versus sociopath. In the world of clinical analysis, a sociopath is often hot-headed and impulsive, but a psychopath is a cold, calculated machine. They are created, not born, often forged through a childhood where survival meant becoming a perfect mirror of what the room required. Have you noticed her eyes? While her mouth speaks of aching hearts and carrying Charlie's breath, her micro-expressions tell a different story. It's a phenomenon called flat affect, your brain's natural defense system, the one Candace Owens says comes online before you can even register it, is telling you to pull back. Why did she curate an Instagram reel of her sick mother just days before Charlie was killed? Why does she smile while discussing an assassination? Because for a created persona, emotions are just data points to be downloaded, not feelings to be felt. We've all heard the Miss Arizona USA 2012 story, the beauty queen turned homemaker. But who held the ladder? Enter Uncle Rick Urbancic. Rick Urbancic isn't just a family friend. He's a high-level executive at Universal Studios. Let's look at the coincidence of 2012. At that time, the Miss USA pageant was a joint venture between Donald Trump and NBC Universal. ERIKA claims her win was a God-given opportunity. Candace Owens suggests it was a placement. When you have an uncle at the top of the very corporation co-owning the pageant, the crown isn't earned, it's issued. This wasn't a career, it was an audition for a larger stage. Rick Urbancic, whose family history is allegedly mired in financial fraud and shadowy ties in Cincinnati, provided the pathway. ERIKA didn't just walk into the spotlight, she was pushed into it by a syndicate that understood the power of an illusory image. This is where the story stops being social climbing and starts looking like statecraft. Meet the shadows behind the family tree. Dr. Jerry France, associated with ERIKA's father, a psychologist who worked with DuPont Chemicals and the Bush family. She developed the Tesseract model, a complex psychological framework. Her research? Gender and behavioral studies in Eastern Europe, specifically Bosnia and Romania. Does the name Fort Huachuca ring a bell? It's the hub of U.S. Army intelligence and electronic warfare in Arizona. Candace Owens bets that ERIKA knows exactly what happens there. With family ties to high-level gender research and intelligence-adjacent corporations, ERIKA's missing years and her sudden Bible study locked in a room look less like religious devotion and more like behavioral programming. When you combine a psychopath's flat effect with a corporate placement syndicate and a background in psychological intelligence models, you don't get a widow. You get a managed asset. Charlie Kirk thought he was marrying a Miss Arizona sweetheart, but he was actually marrying a blueprint. He was the movement, but she was the message. And once the movement became too independent, the message had to be updated. The Shabbat Shalom shift wasn't a change of heart. It was a reboot. ERIKA Kirk was created for this exact moment, to inherit a throne she didn't build and steer it toward the neoconservative war machine that Charlie Kirk died trying to stop. The receipts are in the vault, the mask is on the floor, and the investigation is far from over. Welcome to the next phase of the ERIKA Kirk writer investigation. If you thought the psychopath blueprint was chilling, wait until you see the genealogy of fraud. The 11/22/1988 mystery. In the world of intelligence and high-level grooming, your origin story is everything. But ERIKA's origin story is written in disappearing ink. Candace Owens has unearthed divorce filings between ERIKA's parents, Lori and Kent France, spanning over a decade, from 1995 to 2007. In every single document, child support plans, medical consent forms, final decrees, ERIKA's birthday is listed as November 22, 1988, yet today she celebrates on the 20th. Why does this matter? Because in the legal world, a birthday is the only thing that identifies the child. 10 years of clerical errors by attorneys, judges, and parents? Impossible. This isn't a mistake, it's a redaction. When you want to wipe a past or create a new asset, you start by shifting the date. It makes her untraceable in the very systems meant to track her. The sports royalty hoax. Charlie Kirk proudly told his audience that his wife was sports royalty, a direct descendant of the legendary Vince Lombardi. He claimed their house was filled with Lombardi memorabilia. Candace has pulled the obituaries. Erika's grandmother wasn't a Lombardi, she was Angelina Lombardo. In the world of the Goyim, those names might sound interchangeable, but in the underworld, they are worlds apart. The Lombardo-Genovese crime family is a name built on racketeering and illegal gambling. If Charlie wasn't lying, and he's too smart to lie about something so easily fact-checked, then he was fed a script. He was told he was marrying into football royalty, but the receipts suggest he was marrying into a syndicate. The Shabbat Shalom shift at TPUSA starts to make sense when you realize the gangster's paradise ERIKA was born into. ERIKA's hero journey revolves around a 6 to 8 month period in 2008, where she locked herself in a room to study the Bible. She claims this was her aha moment, the moment she became a sold-out follower of Christ. Flash forward to 2016. ERIKA tells podcaster Sage Steele that she didn't know what she was doing and had to ask a friend to help her read the Bible cover to cover for the first time. If you spent 8 months with a pastor's wife in 2008 studying the Word, why would you be a total novice 8 years later? The answer is simple. The 2008 locked room wasn't for Bible study. It was for reprogramming. It was the missing year where the Miss Arizona asset was scrubbed and the Christian influencer was installed. Charlie Kirk was the anti-war obstacle. He was the one man who could talk Trump out of a neoconservative disaster. And the moment he was gone, ERIKA didn't grieve. She assumed power. She stood there, not as a broken widow, but as the new CEO, ready to hand the keys of Charlie's America First movement to the very neocons and Shabbat Shalom influencers he despised. Like Lyndon B. Johnson on Air Force One, she was sworn in before the body was even cold. The beginning matters, and ERIKA's beginning is a web of fake birthdays, mafia-adjacent bloodlines, and a manufactured faith. She didn't inherit Charlie's legacy, she hostilely took it over. September 10th, 2025, Utah Valley University. In the video from that fateful day, Charlie Kirk is at the podium, mid-sentence. Standing just feet away is his chief of staff, Michael McCoy. He has a backpack on. He has his phone in his hand. He is typing fast. When the shot rings out, the human instinct is universal. You dive, you scream, or you rush to the victim. McCoy does none of those. As the crowd erupts in terror, McCoy bolts. He doesn't check Charlie's pulse. He doesn't look for the shooter. He runs to the back, his eyes never leaving his screen. Why does a closest friend and chief of staff run away from a fallen leader? Unless his job wasn't to protect Charlie, but to report the status of the removal. The 11:23 a.m. smoking gun, the time glitch, Phoenix versus Utah, the mathematics of betrayal. This is where the micro-lies turn into a legal nightmare. In a later interview with the New York Times, ERIKA Kirk detailed exactly how she found out her husband had been shot. She claimed she was in her mother's hospital room in Phoenix when she received a frantic call from Michael McCoy. The article record, ERIKA states she received the call at 11:23 a.m. local Phoenix time. The police record, Charlie Kirk was attacked at 12:23 p.m. local Utah time. The math, in September, Arizona and Utah are on the exact same time, Mountain Daylight Standard Time. There is no hour difference. If ERIKA's own statement is true, Michael McCoy was calling her to say he's been shot at the exact second, or perhaps seconds before, the trigger was even pulled. This wasn't a call of concern. This was a signal. It was the mission accomplished report to the Shabbat Shalom widow. Candace Owens dropped the bomb. Alleged phone records from McCoy's device and claims of a long-standing affair between the chief of staff and the created widow. The Mikey. Shout out. During a national TV tribute, where ERIKA was supposed to be mourning, her tone shifted when she mentioned McCoy. She called him Mikey. She said he was amazing. For a split second, the mask of the grieving widow slipped, and her face lit up with a glow that Charlie never received in his final months. Was Michael McCoy just a best friend, or was he the handler? If ERIKA was created by the syndicate we've uncovered, the Lombardo-Urbancic network, then McCoy was the man on the ground ensuring the blueprint stayed on track. He wasn't there to serve Charlie, he was there to monitor him. And when Charlie became an obstacle to the neocon war machine, McCoy caught the signal and delivered the news to the woman ready to take the keys. Charlie Kirk is gone. Michael McCoy has all but disappeared from the public eye. And ERIKA KIRK is sitting in the CEO's chair, purging anyone loyal to Charlie's America First stance. The signal was sent, the message was received, and the takeover is complete. Candace Owens says, if this was really about grief, why does it look so much like guilt? The time glitch doesn't lie. The CCTV doesn't lie. Only the created widow does, clearing the path for the created widow. In any hostile takeover, the first step is to remove the old guard, those who knew the real Charlie and his true mission. Candace Owens has highlighted a series of quiet exits and restructuring moves that have left TPUSA unrecognizable. As the man in charge of digital security and logistics, Dan Flood had one job on September 10th: protect the perimeter. He failed. In any other organization, he'd be fired on the spot. Instead, ERIKA has kept him close. Why? Because Dan Flood is now an asset who takes orders from the widow. The PR machine that once defended America First is now catching strays. Andrew Colvett, the man who had to spin the steel neck narrative, is being used as a human shield for ERIKA's messaging. The original staff members who questioned the lack of an independent investigation, they're gone, replaced by consultants from the very neoconservative circles Charlie despised. Charlie Kirk's final stand at the White House was against a full-scale war with Iran. He was the one person who could look the president in the eye and say, "This will crater your support." The moment Charlie was removed, the doors to TPUSA swung open for the Warhawks. ERIKA was slated to record with Ben Shapiro and the Netanyahu camp before the Super Bowl, a move Charlie would have seen as a betrayal of his isolationist platform. Candace Owens mocks the new direction as Shabbat Shalom USA. The focus is no longer on the American student or the border. It's on aligning TPUSA with globalist interests and the military-industrial complex. The America First slogan has been kept as a skin, but the heart beating inside it is pure neoconservative interventionism. Perhaps the most shameless part of the purge is how ERIKA and Michael McCoy are using Charlie's own image to validate their new agenda. Michael McCoy and Blake Neff recently took to Charlie's own studio to tell the audience that Charlie would have trusted the president on the very war he stood against. They are using the ghost of Charlie as a shield to silence dissent. If you can't change the man's mind while he's alive, you wait for him to be killed and then claim you know his spirit. ERIKA isn't a grieving widow. She's an ideological liquidator. She is liquidating Charlie's America First assets and selling the remnants to the highest bidder in the Warhawk lobby. Candace Owens says it best. She loved Charlie like LBJ loved JFK. The created widow has completed her mission. She has the CEO title. She has the Lombardo Syndicate backing her. She has the Shabbat Shalom influencers hosting her events. And the man who built it all? He's been reduced to a set of old clips, curated by the woman who was ready to be sworn in before his body was even cold. The Shabbat Shalom purge is over. The movement is dead. The syndicate is in control. And the truth? The truth is buried in a grave in Utah, while the woman who put it there continues to smile for the cameras.